Hey everybody, it's Joe from the How To Guys, and I'm going to show you today how to make your own pea pod underquilt for hammock camping in cold weather. This setup will only cost you 35 bucks. So the first step is to go online, well, anywhere you want, but I went on Amazon and picked out a $25 mummy bag that stuffs down to the size that I need for my backpacking. And I started off by cutting a hole in the foot of the sleeping bag. You want to go about 6 inches wide, and you want to make sure none of that insulation pops out. So I achieved that by hemming or sewing a preliminary seam. I pushed the insulation back away from the hole and then put just a quick seam around the bottom, around the edge of my cut, as you can see here, to keep the insulation inside while I'm working on the rest of the bag. The next step is to reinforce that edge around the hole using any kind of fabric that you want. I used a bag that I had laying around to cut down on costs, and it also matches the climate that I'll be using the underquilt in, with some nice little snowflakes. I also used this fabric because it was a bag and it has handles, and you'll see later I'll use the fabric for the handles to make my bungee cord loops. So I cut strips of the fabric and folded them around the edge of the hole in the foot of the bag and sewed all that together like a thick hem to protect the bag from ripping when I'm using it. You can see here you put the hammock, the foot of the hammock, through that hole as such. Now we're gonna create the loops for the bungees. So I cut some strips of fabric, folded them over for strength, made sure they were all the same length, and sewed them to the hem. This will allow the weight of your body to close the hole when you get into the hammock so that wind won't come through. Here you can see I just made 4 loops. That's been working for me. You could do as many or as few. I guess ultimately you only need 2, but 4 was feeling good. Here's the bungee I put through them. You want to make sure to use bungee instead of rope, because when you get in the hammock, the bungee will allow the pea pod to sink with you, and that way your weight won't compress the insulation and keep you cold. So I just put some carabiners on the end of those bungees, and my weight will keep that hole shut. The next step is to create the exact same type of hole in the top of the sleeping bag, and you want to do it in the very top of the hood of the mummy bag. I did mine a little bit low here, you can see. I did it more behind my head, and that I wish that it was absolutely at the tip top of the hood of the mummy bag, just so you have as much hammock inside the pea pod as possible for a diagonal lay. And I used bungee again up in the loops for that top hole, again so that your weight will not compress the insulation, and also your weight will cinch up that hole when you get in. Now we'll pack up the sleeping bag and head out to the woods. Test it, see how it works out. So I picked a sleeping bag that compresses down to my needs. You can pick whatever kind of sleeping bag you want, and let's see how it works. You can see the hammock goes through the holes on either side. You can put blankets or more sleeping bags inside the hammock, inside the pea pod. Here's my bungee, and I just connected it with carabiners up to the carabiner that hangs the hammock. On this side, you can tell that I have a lot of extra hammock material on the outside of the pea pod, and this is where I'm wishing I had used that extra 6 inches of hood space and made my hole in a slightly different spot. So you just hop up in there. You can put any amount of insulation inside of it as you want. Zip yourself up. This sleeping bag is rated to 24 degrees Fahrenheit, and the night before this video right here, I slept in it. It got down to 30 degrees, and I was pretty warm without another sleeping bag. So it worked out pretty well. Woke up in the morning, hopped on out, and I couldn't have been happier. Good luck building your own, and hope you save yourself a boatload of money and don't buy an expensive underquilt without trying this first. Happy camping!